up to this point, we haven't really covered how to make the data look better than the default settings. So we're going to just open up a blank new sheet here. Just so follow me here, just open up a new sheet. I have zoomed in a little bit just to make the cells a little bit easier to read. In fact, I'll go in just a little bit more. And we're going to use an example of a decision tool that would help you choose an apartment to rent. And so this is just an easy example to kind of walk you through, and then I'll show you with the formatting how you make it look better. And then we'll actually use some really powerful formulas to demonstrate how to make this spreadsheet really be functional. So let's start off here by going into cell A1 and typing in apartment comparison. And let's go back up to cell A1, hover over that cell, so get the highlighted region over cell A1, click on it, left click if you like, or use the arrow keys to go back. And let's change the font type to bold. Okay, so you see when I click on bold, it makes it bold here. You could also use Command B or Control B as the shortcut for bold. So I'm just hitting Command B and Control B to change it from bold to not bold. And let's change the font type from Calibri or whatever your default setting is, just to something different. So let's go maybe for mine, click on Avenir. That's a nice text. And change the font size from 11 to 20. And there we have the simplest of all edits. That is, we want to change the style and weight of the text in a given cell. Now I would consider this the title text of the entire spreadsheet. So it's probably best that we just let the text spill over into the other cells, and you'll see why here in a few minutes. But maybe you wanted to move this over to cell D1, and let's just do a really quickly a reminder on how to do that. You can move the cursor around the perimeter of the highlighted region where the cursor changes to a hand, and that performs a cut and paste operation. If you left click where you see the hand and drag it over to cell C1, that works just fine. And you could perhaps center this to be spilling over both the cells to the left and the cells to the right. So sometimes we want to center the text as well as make it bold and bigger and a different font size. Let's go down now to cell A3, give us a row here to give us some space to work with. I'll go down to cell A3 and type in apartments and hit enter. And let's say we wanted to list every single apartment that we're going to go review to decide if we're going to rent from that place, listed here. So let's start off by making this bold and underline. And let's go to cell A4. And maybe you used a coding scheme when you go look at your apartments, but just for today, we're going to type in apartment 1 and hit enter. And the first thing that we'll take a look at is resizing cells. So you can, between cell or column A and column B, see that the cursor is pointing down when I have this column B highlighted, when I'm just hovering over the column. If I left click, it selects the entire column. So if I left click here in B, left click here in C and D and so on, it's selecting the entire column. That's not that useful at this particular moment, but we are more interested in moving the cursor between A and B. And right at that moment between A and B, you see the cursor change to a left arrow and a right arrow. If you double click, now we've looked at this once before, but this time I'm going to show you some more advanced things here. If you double click, it will snap the column, the width of the column, just to as far as it needs to be to contain everything in column A. Now don't follow me on this step here, but I want to prove this to you how this is working. So if I go down to cell A6 and I type in a whole bunch of letters and I hit enter, now this is in column A, and if I was to go and double click here between A and B, it would snap the size of column A just as long as it needs to be be able to show or contain everything that is the widest cell in this column. So this particular cell was the widest cell in this column, so it snapped it to this position right here. If you go back up here between A and B and you hold down the left click, I'm just left clicking and I'm holding it down. Notice what it's telling you right there is the width 27.50 and 170 pixels wide. So it's probably easier to pay attention to the 170 pixels and watch what happens when you move the column over to the left. It's changing from 140, from 170 down to 140, and this is the actual size on your screen. So this helps you keep things what some call pixel perfect, that it's exactly 130 pixels. Just something to keep in mind. If you were wanting to make column B 130 pixels, you could left click and drag all the way until this reached 130 pixels. And let's say you had a reason for wanting to make column A and column B the exact same width. Now you know that column A and B are the exact same width. These are as well, but they're smaller. And let me show you a faster way to do that exact same thing. So let's close this out. And let's, you have your screen looking like this. You can follow me on this step. Highlight columns A and B. So we'll left click when the cursor is over A, and we'll drag over to the right. So now we have highlighted columns A and B, and let's go in between A and B and get that cursor pointing to the left and right. And let's left click and drag, and let's drag it all the way right here to 64 pixels or whatever it is for your screen, so that it's just wide enough for it to show apartment 1. So you're not going past apartment 1, but over to the right a little bit, and let go. And what happens is when we have highlighted cell or column A and B together before we did the move operation, it made the columns the exact same width. So I'll show that one more time. If you left click and drag, and then in between the two, you click and drag and move them, that will automatically makes column A and column B the exact same width. This is a really handy feature within Microsoft Excel. It may not seem like it right at this moment, but you will see that play out here in different times when we're working on formatting. So again, I'm just going to go back to here and double click between A and B so that it snaps column A right to the size that I need it for the information that's in that column. Let's finish out this particular part here by clicking on cell A4, and in the bottom right hand corner where the cursor changes to two black lines intersecting, I want you to left click and drag down all the way until you see on your screen where it says apartment 8, apartment 9, and apartment 10, and then let go. Notice how Excel picked up on your pattern that you wanted to make apartment 2, 3, 4 as you were dragging it down. And now we have a list of apartments. And let's go back up here between column A and B and double click again. And there we see now it's snapping to give us room after apartment 10 has taken up a little bit more space than these had. All right, in columns B, C, D, and E, we're going to put criteria by which we would evaluate all 10 apartments. So let's go to cell B3 and type in location perhaps. Oops, let me change that there to lowercase and hit the tab key over to cell C3. And maybe we'll do price and amenities. And how about walking friendly? So is the place a nice place to go and take a walk around the apartment complex? So right now we have the columns at all different widths. You see here that the location one is really wide, the price, amenities, walking friendly are all the same, but the text is spilling over here in column E. And let's say we wanted to really quickly resize columns B, C, D, and E to be the exact same width. And we're going to highlight, left click and drag just as we did before. So I left click here in column B and drag over here to column E. And I have all these columns highlighted. And I can go between either one of these three here. I can go between B and C, C and D, or D and E. It doesn't matter. But let me get my cursor in between B and C, where the arrows are pointing left and right. Left click and drag. And I'll bring it here to just past location. How about right there? And I'll let go. And you'll see that it's snapped into a position here, that it's giving us the columns B, C, D, and E of exactly the same width. And we see here that walking friendly is spilled over the text here in column E. We're going to fix that by clicking on cell E3 and right clicking and going to format cells. And what we're going to do is, instead of letting this spill over into cell F3, we're going to hit alignment. Okay. And then you'll see the option for text control and wrap text. Let's click on that and then click OK. See what happens when we wrap the text. It doesn't let the text spill over into the next cell. It just says it needs to stay here in column E, and it's dropped the word friendly to the line below. So now we have B, C, D, and E are the exact same width. The columns are the exact same width, and the cells and rows look really good. And we could change the size of any of these if we wanted to, but I think it looks okay just like that. Let's do one last step by highlighting cells B3 through E3. This time I'm going to hold down the Shift key and hit the right arrow to show you that there's more than one way. Let's do a step here of putting in some fake numbers. There's a fast way to do this using a formula, but let's wait until a little bit further on in the course to talk about those particular formulas. Let's just type in a number from 1 to 10, and they don't have to be in any kind of order, in all of these cells. So I'm just going to fill out these cells just like this, but you go through and fill out the spreadsheet as well. And what you're doing is you are evaluating apartment 1. Let's just assume that we had the ability to, over the next couple of days, to go and look at apartment number 1. And we wanted to evaluate the apartment on a score of 1 to 10. Was it a really good location or was it a really bad location? And let's think of 10 as it's a really good location. So this means that apartment 1 had a very bad location. It's just not in a good spot of town. You really don't want to live in that location, so you just put it as a score of 1. The price isn't very good. The amenities are okay. That means that it has nice things like a pool. And the last score, we gave it a specific score for being walking friendly, that there's places to walk around. It's near places where you can walk around or something like that. So we're giving it a great score of 7. But we need to fill out the rest of these scores for all of the apartments, and I'm going to give you a minute to go ahead and do that. Now you have filled out the entire spreadsheet where you have values here listing every single apartment along the rows and how that apartment scores in terms of how much you like it. And now you see that the numbers are right aligned by default. Maybe you want the numbers to be centered just as the headings are centered in the column. So we could go and highlight all of these cells. Let me show you a shortcut here using the keyboard. Let's hold down the Shift key and the Command key or Control key together at the same time. So you have held down the Shift key, the Command key, and let's hit the right arrow going over. And let's keep the Shift key and the Command key held down. If you already let go, that's fine. You can just press them down again, and then hold the down, or press the down arrow. And we have highlighted that entire block of numbers. So just to do that one more time, I went to cell B4. I held down the Shift key, the Command key or Control, and then right arrow and down arrow. Now this will only work if you have numbers in a nice grid format like this. Otherwise you might see it jumping way down at the bottom of the screen and doing all kinds of weird things. We'll talk about why it's doing that later, but let's get the basics down here, that you have a number in each cell. You held down the Shift key, Command, right arrow over, and down arrow to give you a highlighted for all of these cells. And now let's go up to the formatting and click center. There we have the spreadsheet looking nice again, where you have the columns centered and the numbers centered. All right, the spreadsheet is looking pretty good. The problem here is that in cell C1, I have the words apartment comparison and it's Avenir text, and the rest of the text is still Calibri. Let me show you a shortcut here. You could do to format all of the text all together at one time. And if you hold down the Command key on a Mac or Control on a Windows and hit A, that will select all of the data within the spreadsheet. Or you could go to an empty cell here and hit Command A, and that will make all of this data. And if you did down here all by itself and did Command A, it would select the entire spreadsheet. So where you click and where you have the highlighted region matters before you hit Command A. It's only going to select different parts of the spreadsheet, but keep in mind that Command A is a shortcut to give you a multiple selection, or if you want to go to the quickest way and select all of the cells really quickly by clicking the mouse, you can come up here and click up in this box up here. Doesn't matter where you click at in the box. You can click up here in the top or this one, this side, and left click, and it selects the entire sheet. And now we can go up here to the option to change the text to Avenir, and there we have it. Spreadsheet is looking nice again. Looks like 10 is kind of butted up against this line here between A and B, so I might go between A and B again and then double click and have it snap to a good position. So there I have things looking nice. They're all B, C, D, and E are the same width. The spreadsheet looks good, has the same text, and we're off to the next step. Okay, hopefully you've gotten to the point now in this class where you feel confident. You're thinking of what you want to do next, which is you want to add up all of the scores for each apartment. You want a total score for apartment 1 through 10, and you want it to be in column F. If you were thinking that, that's great. You're already starting to understand and unlock the power of Microsoft Excel. So let's go to cell F3 and type in the word total and hit enter. Notice that the text is left aligned. We can take care of that later. But we need a formula now to add up the values to the left. So let's do equals and type in the word sum. This is to add up numbers, and an open parentheses. So we're now moving on to functions in Excel, where these are defined functions like sum, sum. You can see that as I just typed in S, it's going to show all different kinds of functions. And the option that I want to use is sum. And it doesn't matter if it's capitalized or not. If it's lowercase, that's fine as well. It's still going to work. And the way we finish this function is to tell it which cells to sum or which cells to add up. That means the same thing. So we have a couple of options here. We can go and click on cell B4, left click. And right now we would just be adding the number of itself. So it's just going to be 1. But we want to hold down the shift key and hit the right arrow over. And that's going to select cells B4 through E4. And then we're going to need a closing parentheses. Oops. Closing parentheses to finish the function. So equals sum tells us to add up numbers, and this tells us which numbers to add. In the terminology of Excel, this is a function that's defined by the program. Someone already made this for you. You're just what programmers called calling that function. And so you're calling the function sum on a parameter, and the parameter is an array. This is a lot of just programming language here. This is the parameter of B4 through E4. So all of the cells in this shaded region. And when you hit enter, it's going to add it up. So 1 plus 2 plus 5 plus 7 is 15. Now I hope you're thinking, could I do this sum operation equals sum B4 through E4? Could I do this for all of these really quickly? If not, that's okay. Maybe you went down to cell F5. This is fine. You hit equals sum to get some practice. You hit open parentheses, and then you hit, maybe this time let's do the left arrow over, and then hold down the shift key and keep hitting the left arrow. So we've now selected the entire range, and let's close parentheses and hit enter. And we're getting what we need. That's 13. And you just kept going down the list, typing in sum, open parentheses, left arrow, highlighting all the cells, close parentheses. And this would be good. You're getting your practice typing in formulas into Microsoft Excel, but there is a faster way. Let's go to cell F4, where we have the first formula typed in. It doesn't matter where we started this, but let's go to F4. That's where I have the first one. And let's hit Command C or Control C for copy. So we've just copied this formula, and let's hold down the shift key and hit the down arrow several times until we get to F13. And let's hit Command V or Control V for paste and see what happens. So let's go down to the bottom cell, click on that, F13, go up here to the formula bar, click up here to see what's happening, it's taking sum of B13 to E13, just as we wanted, right? It's doing the calculation, and we didn't have to type in the formula into every single cell. All we did was copy and paste the formula down. Again, this is what makes Excel extremely powerful. Copy and paste, Control C, and then highlight all the cells, Control V. Or another way to do copy and paste is to go to the bottom right hand corner of the cell where the cursor changes to two black lines intersecting, and left click and drag all the way down. That does the exact same thing as a copy and paste. Let's clean up the spreadsheet again. We have the text here left aligned, we have the numbers right aligned, and so we want to take all of these cells. I can just left click here in cell F3 and drag down, or I could click on cell F3, hold down the shift key, hold down the command key and hit the down arrow. That will select everything down to the last item of something in a row or in a column. And let's go to center, and let's make this whole entire set of numbers bold. And how about we go back to cell F3 and also make this underline by hitting the command or control and U for underline. Again, we could have clicked up here to highlight, to make it underlined, or to hit command and control or control U. And let's look down at the list and see which of the numbers was highest, and that's 32. We could do something special here like highlight these cells. So I could go to fill color and switch that to green. And I could go down to 32 and switch that to green. Just click on this cell here or click on the drop down and choose green. And those are the two apartments that scored the highest. So we would be thinking about either renting apartment 3 and apartment 9, and it really comes down to a matter of preference here. Do you really care more about location? Do you really care more about price, amenities, or it being walking friendly? And that's what we're going to model next. So we're going to make the spreadsheet even better. We're going to use an advanced formula that helps us really choose between options. And the way that works is we're going to give location, price, amenities, and walking friendly a weight. So we're going to say that maybe price matters more than location, or amenities matter more than location, or walking friendly, and so on. First, I want to show you one quick way to reorganize these to make them even easier to read. Let's go to cell A3 and hold down the shift key and the control key or command for a Mac. Hit the right arrow over, hit the down arrow, highlight all of your cells here. You could have also just clicked in cell A3 and drag it all the way down to cell F11, 13, and go to the data tab and choose the option for sort. And make sure that this is selected here that says my list has headers. All this means is that when you highlighted these numbers, you highlighted cell A3 through F13. This included this first row, that is this just the headers, not the actual values. And let's go down here to sort by and click on column and go to total. So we're going to sort the total column based on the values of not smallest to largest, but let's click here under order and do largest to smallest and click OK. So there we go. We have apartment 3 and apartment 9 now listed at the top because they had the highest score of 32. These are two apartments that we would probably want to choose between if we were renting because we gave them really high values. But we have the challenge of picking which one now. And for that, we're going to do a little bit more advanced spreadsheet. All right, let's make this spreadsheet even better and more advanced. Let's go to row 2 and move our cursor until it's pointing to the right in row 2 and right click and choose insert. And let's do it one more time, right click and choose insert so we have some new rows here that we can work with. And we're going to put the word weights right here in cell A3. And we're going to put 1 in cell B3, 1 in cell C3, and how about 2 in cell D3 and 3 in cell E3. Okay, we see here that the formatting is all different, that this number is in the center, it's bolded, we don't want that. Let's select the entire row by going over here to the left and clicking on the 3. And let's go back here to home. Let me change this to drop down Avenir, click Avenir again, and the text size, let's move that to all of them should be 11, and let's make them all centered, and let's click on bold and then bold again just to make sure we take off the bold. And let's even do one more step here formatting wise. Let's highlight all of these cells B3 through E3, and let's click on this option to give it a border. So we'll click the little drop down here and choose the option for all borders. That's going to put a box around each one of the cells. And we have something that looks a little bit like this now. Okay, so what we're saying here conceptually is that we're going to give a location a weight of 1, and price a weight of 1, amenities a weight of 2, and being walking friendly a weight of 3. What this means is that walking friendly in our mind is 3 times as important as location. I'll say that one more time. So that walking friendly, the fact that the apartment complex is walking friendly, is 3 times more important to us than is location. That's what that 3 to 1 means. Now you might say, hey, price is the thing that matters most to me. So this should be 5, and this should be 1, and this should be 1. This is all completely up to you. This is just an example to show you how we can set up a spreadsheet like this. So we're just going to leave it like it was, 2 and 3, and show you a new advanced formula to take into consideration the weight, the importance, maybe we could even change this word to importance, of each one of these criteria for the apartments. So we have a total score here that only factors in 8, 9, 10, and 5. But what we really want to do is take this cell right here, the importance, multiplied by the apartment score, and then add the importance here of this times the price, and then add the importance here of amenities times the amenity score, and do the same thing, 3 times 5, and add up those with the rest of these. And let's go ahead and do that, and I'll show you the long way first. The long way helps you understand that a little bit better, I think, where we do equals, and we reference cell B6, and to do the multiplication, you take B6 times an asterisk of B3, and then do plus C3 times C6 plus D3 times D6 plus E3 times E6, and hit enter. And let's see what happens here. So let's go back up to the formula bar and just think conceptually again about what we're trying to accomplish. We're trying to get the location score to be altered based on the fact that we have an importance to it, and price and amenities and walking friendly. So we think that walking friendly is really important to us. So we're going to take whatever score we give it, in this case 5 for apartment 3, and take it multiplied by 3. So we're going to really boost up its score to 15 because walking friendly is just that important to us. So it has now a score of 15 where a location still has a score of 8 because it's taking 1 times 8 and giving us a total score of 8 right here. But this 3 times 5 gives us 15, so we're saying that walking friendly is really important to us. It's going to help us make our decision with a total score, and the same goes for these other two. So again, when I hit enter, you see that it now has a score of 52, and we have an issue here. If we do a copy and paste, we go down here to the bottom right hand corner, and left click and drag, we're going to make a mistake, and I'll make that mistake on purpose and show you why it's making a mistake. It's giving us the word value here. That seems strange. But anytime you use copy and paste, you should really go down to the last cell in the copy and paste operation, click on the formula bar, and then look at what it's trying to accomplish. It's trying to take 1 times 1 plus 2 times 6 plus 5 times 2 plus 7 times 2. We didn't want to do that. We wanted to take 1 times 1 plus 6 times 1 plus 2 times 2 plus 2 times 3. And we wanted to keep the position of these cells locked up here. This is what we talked about before with an absolute and relative reference. This is where those ideas come into play, and they're extremely important in the use of Microsoft Excel. Also, just a real quick thing, notice how all the cells turn green when I use copy and paste. This is because I copied and pasted the formatting as well as the formula. So it took the fact that the cell was green and then gave it green to all of these. So this is something we'll need to change here shortly. So let's go back up here to cell F6 and double click on the cell to get back into edit mode. And let's go to any place that has the number 3. So B3. And let's put $signs around the B and 3. And cell C3, we're going to put $signs around that. Cell D3, we're going to put $signs around that. And cell E3, we're going to put $signs around that. So we're putting $signs around these cells that are in row 3. So B3, C3, D3, and E3. We're putting $signs around them to make them an absolute reference so that when we copy and paste the formula down, these cells don't change position. So these will, right? This will change to B7, this will change to C7, this will change to D7, this will change to E7, but these will stay the same. B3 will stay, C3 will stay, D3 will stay, and E3 will stay the same. So let's hit enter. Notice nothing happened yet because we didn't do a copy and paste yet. We still need to do that by hitting Command C or Control C, holding down the Shift key and hitting the down arrow a few times, and then Command or Control V, and there we have the right formula now. So let's go down to the bottom, cell F15, click on the formula bar, and look and see what happened. We're now correctly taking this number times this one, plus this number times this one, plus this one times this one, plus this one times this one, to give us a total score that also factors in how much we care about each of these criteria. Let's clean this spreadsheet up again by going to cell A5, left click and drag over to F5 and down, or go here to A5, hold on the Shift key, the Command key, and hit the right arrow and then the down arrow. And let's go to data and sort again. Now that we have new total values in, we're going to sort the column of total on values from largest to smallest and hit OK. And see now that apartment 9 has the highest score, but apartment 10 is down here, and 56 is the total score that factors in how much we care about it being walking friendly, having good amenities, price, and location. So now let's go back to this part over here and hold down the Shift key and Command and hit the down arrow. So I'm in cell F7. I could just left click and drag too as well. And let's take out the green formatting, the shading. So let's go to fill color, click on that, do no fill. And maybe we want to highlight row 6. So let's click on A6, left click and drag, and go back to fill and choose green, just so that we can really highlight that apartment 9 is the apartment that we'd want to choose. It has completely factored in now how important we consider each of these criteria to be, and given us a total, what we would call weighted score of 56. So this might be something you need to go up there and change later on. And what's really great about the spreadsheet is you could change Walking Friendly's value to 2. Keep in mind that it is possible that the scores now would need to be resorted again, but we can change this and watch how the total values change based on how important we make Walking Friendly. So we could change this to any number we want. The spreadsheet totals will change automatically. And we have a really dynamic spreadsheet here. This is a very, very popular way to set up a spreadsheet where we have the weight or the importance score at the top, the evaluative scores here at the bottom. The total score is the weighted attributes. Okay. And let's do one more thing here to really clean the spreadsheet up one more time. Let's highlight cells A1 to F1 and right click and choose Format Cells. And how about we do the option for merge cells. So we're going to bring together cells A1 through F1. We're going to merge them into one big cell and hit OK. And let's go back up here to center, and let's make it bold again, and the font at 20. We now have the word, it might not seem like much of a difference, but we now have the word apartment comparison exactly in the center of this block of text. So from A1 down to F15, we have a perfectly centered apartment comparison title. We have the importance here listed here, and we have the total scores. You could, even if you wanted to, you could right click on cell on the row 3 and do hide. So you could get rid of the row if you wanted to. You could right click on 2 and do hide again. Maybe though you really wanted to show how you got the numbers, so if you wanted to unhide them, you left click 1 and 4 and right click and do unhide. So depending on your preference, you may or may not want to show the importance here. You just might only want to look at what is the total score, but this is now a really good, nice, clean spreadsheet. The only last thing I might suggest is highlighting cells A5 through A15 and giving it a border of all borders. And you could at this point then take off the underline for apartments in total because it's redundant. And there you have more of a grid or box format. If you were to print this, it would be much easier to read. I'm going to click here on cell F6 to show you one other way to calculate this exact same formula, but it's a more popular and more concise and just frankly a better looking way to calculate this formula than what we did here before. So because this is so popular to do this kind of math in Excel where we do a maybe expected value or what we call multi-attribute model, it's so popular that there's a formula, a function just for this operation. So let me go here and hit the delete key to just take out that formula, and I'll hit equals, and you can follow me here. We'll type in the function sum product, open parentheses, and what we're going to do is select an array, 2 arrays. This first array, array is just short for, or array means a collection of numbers. So I'm just left clicking and dragging these 4 numbers, these 4 cells as array number 1. And just as we did before, we need to lock the position of this array to make sure that when we copy and paste the formula, these values don't change. So we're going to put $signs around each of the letters, B, 3, E, and 3. If you're advanced and you know that you don't really necessarily need a $sign in front of the column, that's okay. Just keep in mind that we'll go into the more advanced reasons why we want a $sign later on in the course. But let's just do, for this example, $sign B, $3, $sign E, $sign 3, comma. And then the second array is down here to B6, or B6 to E6, and then a close parentheses. Okay, so there we have it, 2 arrays. The first array is this set of numbers. So sum product, first array is this set of numbers. The second array is B6 to E6. We want to leave this as a relative cell reference because when we drag it down, we want this to change to B7, E7, B8, E8, and so on. So let's hit enter. Notice that it's the exact same score, so we know that this is the same formula as what we did before. It just looks a lot cleaner. Some products, people will, advanced users of Excel will know what's happening when you use a sum product. And so this just shows the person that you're sending the spreadsheet to that you understand and you know Microsoft Excel in an advanced way. Let's now use the copy and paste feature to perform this function to all of the cells here. And again, you could left click in the bottom right hand corner of the cell and drag it down. Notice that when we do a copy and paste to all of these cells, the formatting is going to come as well. So we get all the green cells. We could then just select in the middle here cells F7 down to F15 and go to fill and click no fill. So that goes away again. But let's take a look at the formula in cell F15 now. We have the sum product of these numbers up here multiplied and then added together with these cells. So sum product, just to recap one more time, it's taking this number times this number and then adding this number times this and then adding this number times this and then adding this number times this to give us a weighted score, or a sum of all of the products. So that's why it's called that. It's taking the sum of all of the products. Products is another word for multiplied together. And there you have it. A nice looking apartment comparison spreadsheet that allows you to change values as you need to get different scores, as maybe you have more information come in and you want to change the scores. I think what really makes this spreadsheet great is two reasons. One, that you have a history that as you look at apartment 9, it might be 2 weeks before you look at apartment 10. And sometimes you forget, or oftentimes you forget how good of a location it is or a price it is. And so this keeps a good history of what you think. And the second issue is really hold yourself accountable to what you thought was the right importance of location, price, amenities, and walking friendly. I hope that you find this particular spreadsheet setup helpful for you, and that you can think about other use cases for this kind of spreadsheet where you're not looking at apartments. Maybe you're looking at a house, or maybe you're looking at other things to buy. Maybe you're just comparing employees, right? That you're trying to figure out who to hire for your organization. And instead of apartments going down, this is candidate 1, candidate 2, candidate 3, and you're evaluating the candidates based on different criteria.